Hey everybody, hope you're having a good day today. As you can see, I put no intro on this video. I just want to get down to it. Yesterday I did a video, ChatGPT integrated into Linux, WTF. Basically what I was saying in that video was we need to keep AI out of Linux. And I ruffled some feathers because people came back and said it's not in the Linux kernel. What are you worried about? It's in GNOME. You can turn it off or on. What is the big deal? The big deal to me is this. It shouldn't be anywhere near Linux. Now, if you're using it in a business situation, I can understand why you would need it. But trying to integrate it on the desktop for personal users, I think, is just another way to try to get something into Linux to track us. But I had a lot of people sound off in the comments, and that's what I want to go over today. I had one comment that started off, integration is the future. Get used to it. How many times have we heard this in the past? Whether it be Microsoft, Apple, especially Apple. This is the future. This is the iPhone. If it doesn't come from our app store, you can't load it on there. This is the future. Get used to it. Your phone's going to phone home. They're going to let us know where you are, where your location is. This is the future. Get used to it. Location has to be on or your maps won't work. This is the future. Get used to it. Oh, by the way, we're going to track your emails and put that into our calendar app so we can remind you of appointments and things like that. It's the future. Get used to it. We have become so numb to what these technology companies are doing and how much information they're taking. Everybody just says, oh, well, they need it. You download an app on your phone. I got to have access to your contacts. Got to have access to your phone calls. Really? For a picture-taking app? Why? Why do you not need access to all of that? I don't really get frustrated or upset because people have opinions, and I love opinions. I think everybody needs to have their own personal stance of what they believe and what they're used to. I'm just going to express to you the way I feel and the way I see things. And we're not always going to see eye to eye. But one thing in the Linux community we can do is start a conversation. And that conversation needs to be open, and that conversation needs to be truthful about really what ChatGPT would bring to a home Linux user's computer. And I don't think it's going to bring anything, especially seeing how it's very, very young. It's in its infancy, and it's really at this point in time just basically regurgitating information, and 50% of it may be right and 50% of it may be wrong. And then we have people come out of the woodwork and tell me I'm a conspiracy theorist. Aside from the nutty conspiracy theorist perspective, ChatGPT isn't doing anything humans weren't basically doing to begin with. Almost no ideas are original. We're always being inspired and building on the work of others. I agree with that last sentence. We are being inspired and building on the work of others. And he states here that, ChatGPT isn't doing anything humans weren't basically doing to begin with. That's right, stealing our information. Whether it was in the 70s or 80s or when you had the 90s kick in and people really started taking the identity theft to a dangerous level, I understand what he's saying in this statement. But what I'm saying is humans weren't doing right, but we're going to trust an artificial intelligence to do right. It's not, because it's programmed by humans. It can be programmed to do whatever they ask it to do. It's not a conspiracy theorist. If you'd have said 15 years ago, Google's tracking you. No, they weren't. Yes, they were. They've been tracking us for a long time. And people said, no. And then every year it seemed like something leaked out of different things that Google was doing. They get a slap on the hand, pay a little fine that they have plenty of money to pay, and just keep taking our information. So I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's more of a conspiracy fact. When you can prove what you're saying is true, then it's fact. It's not a theory anymore, and it's not a conspiracy. And everybody's in on it. Microsoft, Apple, Google. Some may be doing it for different reasons. Of course, Google's going to do it because they need that ad money. They need to market to you, and they need to make those dollars, just like YouTube. I use YouTube. It's the way I get out and talk to people. I understand that. I had a commenter the other day say, the only reason you do this channel is to make money. Wow, really? I've made a whopping $380 in the last month. I don't know about y'all, but that barely covers an electric bill nowadays. So I'm not doing this channel just to make money. That's not the point. My point here is to bring information to people. Maybe some people know that information, maybe some people don't. But at the end of the day, you can take that information for how you see fit. And then we have people that come out of the woodwork and drop a comment basically stating that I don't stand for freedom. Troy says Linux is about freedom. Also Troy complains how other people use that freedom when it doesn't affect them. I'm not complaining about the way people use their freedoms. We're free to do whatever we want in this world. But as somebody that loves Linux, as somebody that uses Linux for more than just sitting around and surfing the web, I use it to run businesses. I use it to run a YouTube channel. I utilize it more than I ever would macOS or Windows. I don't complain about how people use their freedom. You're free to do whatever you want. But I think we also have to keep in check that if we're dragging something into our environment that is going to affect us, whether it be stealing our information, whether it be logging our keystrokes, whether it be taking every question we ask it and putting it in this giant brain bank so that it can do whatever it wants in the future, I don't think that's something that's needed. That's my personal opinion. Now, if you're in business and you're using Linux systems, I can understand how you would use it to probably make jobs easier. But at the same time, do you want to give up business secrets in that environment and have it possibly affect your business in the future? I think we are getting to a point right now that where we rely too much on technology, way too much on technology. There's a lot of things that I still hand file. I don't trust it in a cloud. I keep it locally on my own private server, but there's still things that I print out and put in a file folder and put up and delete off my system because I don't want to have technology controlling everything that I do in my life. Now, most people would say, well, that's because you haven't caught up with the times. This is a new era. There's technology out there that makes your job easier. You're right. There is a lot of technology out there that makes your job easier. But I have seen businesses, being in IT, I have seen businesses that if their servers or something like that go down, their business comes to a complete halt because they are 100% reliant on that technology. You have to have a backup. You have to have the ability that if that technology disappeared tomorrow, you could still go on and do your job. I have a mobile promotion business, I have an IT business, and I have a YouTube channel. If all the technology disappeared tomorrow, my YouTube channel would probably be put on pause, but I could still put food on the table for me and my family. And then, of course, I don't want to miss out on the people that see generally from my direction as well. Hey, let's make Linux just like Windows. Won't that be awesome? Keep your grubby hands off my Linux. I agree with this statement. I think there needs to be growth in the Linux community. I think there needs to be growth in Linux as a desktop, obviously, or I wouldn't have this channel up and I wouldn't be talking to you wonderful people every day. But I think we have to put a little bit of a limit on it. We don't want to put Linux on our system and say, okay, it looks just like Windows, it operates just like Windows. Great, I'm on it. If you're switching from Windows to Linux, why are you switching? That's why you got to ask yourself, are you worried about security and privacy? Are you somebody that just doesn't like Windows anymore? Do you have to pay for your copy of Windows? There could be a plethora of different reasons that you're leaving Windows to come to Linux. But at the end of the day, a lot of us out there switch to Linux because, one, it is free as in freedom, that I stand by 100%. We just have to be careful of some of the things we let onto our desktop. I'm not talking about censorship. What I'm talking about, are we just going to let anything that can track what we do on our computers into our Linux system and call it, hey, in the name of progress, it's what we need to embrace, it's what we need to put our arms around. Because everybody knows Windows, if they had the chance, would destroy Linux in a heartbeat. They would. I don't care about Azure Cloud. I don't care about all the servers. If Windows could make Linux go away, they would, because that's a chance for them to grab a market share they don't have. That's my opinion. You disagree with me, I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments below. And then we had somebody else come in and say, just a continuation of the dumbing down of society. If anyone thinks the powers that be are doing this for your benefit, then I have a bridge to sell you. Can anyone say useless eater? Now, I understand where he's coming from. Because the people that are making this, and let me just say this, Microsoft is investing billions of dollars into OpenAI, which is behind Copilot and, of course, ChatGPT. They're investing billions of dollars. Why do you think that is? Have you asked yourself that? Why? Because they can use that tool and make money from it. A lot of people are going to say that is what big business does. I understand that. But at the same time, do we want to let big business in our Linux systems? We already don't like them in our Windows systems, in our Mac systems, on our iPhones, on our Android phones. They already know where we eat, what time we get up, what time we go to bed, what banks we use. They know all that information about us, especially if you're using that tracking device you call a cell phone. So why in the world would you want to welcome it into your Linux desktop? That's my question. I don't know why people get so upset sometimes with me and leave comments like that saying, hey, Troy's not about freedom. Hey, Troy's just trying to make money for his channel. No, I'm not. I'm here trying to share information with like-minded people out there that I think would be, standing on the same side of the wall as I would. It's common sense. You don't want to invite something into your environment. If you've got a house and you've got your family and your wife and your kids there, are you going to invite something into your home that could possibly cause a security issue? No, you're not. You're not going to let them around your loved ones. You know why? Because you're there to protect them. So why don't you protect yourself and your information in the same way? Just a silly question. Then I had made a statement yesterday about ChatGPT being proprietary, and I had somebody pop out of the woodwork and say, you know that Steam is entirely proprietary, right? Well, I think what he's touching base on here is a video I did about Steam OS. Now, Steam OS in and of itself is open source. The Steam application is proprietary. Yes, I do know it's proprietary, and you can play games on it. But you know what? Steam isn't on a system, and it's not sitting there logging keystrokes. It's not sitting there logging your location. It's not sitting there phoning home so that they can market to you. Yes, they're going to try to sell you different games, but that's going to be based on the games that you already play or things that you've done in the past on that platform. They're not trying to sell me toothpaste, toilet paper, or dog treats just because it happened to overhear me talking about it on a microphone. Let me say that again. It's not selling me toothpaste, toilet paper, or dog treats because of what it heard over a microphone. It's trying to get me to play different games, and it's trying to get me to buy them. That's their business model. And the final comment I'm going to bring up today is a kind of a lengthy one. I agree with some of the things he says in this comment, and at the same time, I disagree, but that's the beauty of this. He has an opinion. I don't understand the pushback from completely optional, initially uninstallable software. The pushback is yes, I know there's freedom. Anybody can develop whatever they want. But it's a scary and it's a slippery slope to have something that can be put on your system to track you. I don't like it. If the extension was natively included upon installation, then it would raise concerns as to if it should be integrated by default. But criticizing software that has no ties to the core functionality or default setup of a larger piece of software seems a little bit extraneous. So in other words, what he's saying is, if you can install it or uninstall it, why are you complaining? I'm complaining because of the general gist of it. ChatGPT is dangerous. And if you don't believe me, look at any technology that we have that has just grown and exploded and what it has done to society. Whether it be an application like Facebook, whether it be smartphones, the iPhone, and all the smartphones that come after it, what effect has that had on our society? You got people now that would rather call or text as opposed to meet people face to face. We got people that want to sit behind keyboards on Facebook and down others and bully others. Technology always comes with a caveat that if it's misused, it's going to be extremely dangerous. And ChatGPT in the Linux system, heck, ChatGPT in general can be a dangerous tool. It's going to be a dangerous tool. Yes, it's at its infancy right now, but I guarantee you 10 years from now, we're going to be looking back going, oh boy, this is getting ugly. If you don't agree with me, please put that in the comments below. One of the biggest things that drew me to Linux was, yes, the fact that it was open source, but also practically non-existent limits. I could do whatever I wanted to on Linux with a lot more flexibility than I saw on Windows. Even if what I was doing was rather stupid and would later become a failed project down the road, I could still do it, period. I agree with that. That's totally right. You can do whatever you want on Linux. You have that freedom, and it gives you the ability to do things that you can't do on macOS and Windows. Especially software in the free and open source community. Projects are not necessarily created because they should be created, but rather because no one says they shouldn't. Free software is given to the public with practically no limits, outside proper crediting, of course, for whoever to do whatever they please. Complaining about someone's contribution, open source or not, to what could be done feels trivial because unless one chose to use it in some fashion, they will ever be affected by it elsewise, unless it gets merged into a larger project. So what he's basically stating here is there's no reason to complain if you're not going to use it and other people want to use it. I kind of agree with what he's saying here. I understand where he's coming from, but you have to be careful of turning your head away from something just because you don't use it, especially if it has dangerous underpinnings. And I think because AI is created by man, and we already admitted in a previous comment that men were basically doing what AI is going to be doing now. It's going to be just as dangerous, if not more, because of the ability it's going to have to be able to track so much more than just a man behind a keyboard. Also, why are proprietary NVIDIA drivers an exception when a completely open source alternative exists? Let's go ahead and touch on this. Yes, Nuvo does exist, but Nuvo doesn't always work on everybody's systems, and they may have to step out and use an NVIDIA proprietary driver. I don't slam people for that. I have more than once told people on this channel, use what you feel comfortable using, but know what limits that you're going to have and know the cost. If you want to use Windows, know the cost, your information and your privacy and security. If you're going to use macOS, know the cost, your privacy, security, what you're giving up or what you're sacrificing to use those operating systems. At the end of the day, the data they collect on you and basically make you a number and know everything about you is what that's what it costs. That's what you're giving up. People still and probably always will have access to an open source NVIDIA driver counterpart. Yes, they will, but it doesn't always work for them. And when it doesn't, they can turn and use an NVIDIA proprietary driver if they like, because that is what freedom is. This last statement right here, I think pretty much says it all. Freedom does exist. But freedom isn't free. And that's what people need to understand. The cost of freedom is expensive. So we, as people that use Linux and value our freedom, are the ones that need to watch out and let others know when we think something can be a danger to that freedom. And that's what I was doing with yesterday's video. Some of you agreed, some of you didn't. That's the great thing about Linux. We can have opinions, we can talk about them, and we can bring it to the forefront. Call me a conspiracy theorist, call me whatever names you want to call me. But I will tell you this, 10 years from now, when you look back and see just what ChatGPT and other AI is doing, you will say, man, I should have listened to Troy. A favor before you leave today, please like the channel. Likes keep me in YouTube's algorithm, which means if you found the information in this video helpful, somebody else out there might as well. And subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. And if you end up not liking me, you can always unsubscribe. You also can become a member right here on YouTube for just 99 cents a month. But that's not all. We are also on Utreon, which you can become a member on at $2.99 a month, or Odyssey, which is $4 a month. You can also buy us a cup of coffee, maybe zip on over to PayPal and throw us a donation, or go over to Patreon and become a patron to the channel. All those links will be in the description below. As always, thank you for watching my video, and I will see you in the next video.